we don't remember how we learnt it or when we learnt it. And this is just learning something that's unfamiliar to you. And the importance of in learning, we have these old patterns that we've learned, which can be fine, but how can we leave those old patterns and do something in a different way? And if we have more patterns of behaviour or of movement, then we have a real choice of what we choose to do, and we can bring increased freedom of choice rather than just acting from one or two possibilities and seeing if the result is going to be good or bad. And how we can generalize the learning and how we pay attention in this lesson, how that can generalize out into our daily life. And the importance, he talks about having the ability to jump. You might have the ability and choose not to jump, which is fine. But if you don't have the ability to jump, well, that's something that's missing. Or if you don't have the ability to dance, then you can't dance if you want to. When if you can dance, then you can choose if you want to or not. And join your feet together, so bring the soles of your feet together. And in that position, move the head to 12. And then move up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in a clockwise direction. And then reverse it, coming back to 12 via 3. And continue doing that movement with the head until it becomes really familiar to you. Exploring that clockwise motion, going from 12 up through 3 to 6, until it's so familiar that it's semi-automatic. And have the idea that in one direction, as you're going from 12 up to 3 to 6, you're going in a clockwise direction. And as you're reversing and going from 6 to 12, you're going in an anti-clockwise or counterclockwise direction. And just find nearly a rhythm with the movement. And can you feel something happening in your pelvis as you do the movement with your head? Now keep doing the movement with your head and move your pelvis. So move your pelvis from 12 to 11 to 10 and back to 11 to 12 whilst you move your head in the clockwise direction. So the pelvis is only going at this point from 12 to 11 to 10, back to 11 and 12, whilst the head is moving in that clockwise direction from 12 to 3 to 6, and then anti-clockwise from 6 to 3 to 12. And then continue adding an hour with your pelvis as you do the movement. And then continue the movement. And feel how suddenly you know what you're doing. What's making more sense to you, the movement of the head and having the ability to move it in this way as the pelvis is moving in its way. And you might be moving, think of the coordination of the timing between the head and the pelvis, if it's in phase or out of phase. And how you've got the different options, how you could now just explore how you could move your head and pelvis in a different way, and how you have more choice in the relationship of the head and the pelvis. And then leave it and take a rest. So think of some skills that people have. So I'm thinking of that ability of pianists, how they can do one thing with one hand. They might play a slower notes on one hand whilst the left hand does something quicker. So they've got that ability to move at different rates and to coordinate the movement between different parts of their body. Now come up to sitting in that half propped up position so that the soles of your feet are together and you're propped up on your forearms. And just make a few circles of your pelvis and just letting the head do what it likes. And you could move from 12 to 6 with the pelvis and feel the ease of that. And then you could make a few circles of the pelvis and sense the connection up through to your head. And how that is. And then change position and come back onto your hands and do a few movements of circling the pelvis, leaning on the hands. And feel what happens in your spine, in your shoulders, the quality of the movement. And feel the relationship of the pelvis to the head as you do that in this position. And then come back up to standing. And walk around and feel how it's in stand, how that is. We've still got a few movements to do on our knees and in standing, so just have a walk and feel how the pelvis and the head and the spine, how they're relating to each other as you're walking. And then find a way that you can be comfortable on your mat, kneeling. And if you need something under your knees, there's different bits of foam that you can use to make yourself comfortable, but you're going to come onto both knees. Okay. And then standing on your knees, bring your knees together. So you're not on all fours, you're just standing up on your knees, and your knees are together. And slowly do the movement from 12 to 6 with your knees together. And feel how that resonates up through your body. And then see if you can keep your head still whilst you move the pelvis to and fro. And then move your knees apart and find a comfortable place for them to be. And move the pelvis in the same direction, forward and back. And feel how this is different. And what's happening in your hips. And then keep your head still as you do that movement. Going forward and back. And then explore going left and right. So moving the pelvis left and right and feeling what your head does in this position. Okay, take the weight on one knee and the other knee, and then continue the movement, but see if it's possible to keep your head still whilst your pelvis moves left and right. And now make a tiny circle with your pelvis in a clockwise direction, with the head remaining still. And then do a few movements more quickly with the pelvis and see if the head stays still. And then do a few movements with your pelvis in the other direction. Okay, and then leave it and just take a pause. Okay. And so then what I'm thinking is, how about if we have a look at that movement with somebody in kneeling? So Amanda, are you happy to just come up and do the movement? So if Amanda just does the move, you can do it, well, you can do it on your knees or in standing. So if I'm holding onto Amanda's head, and you just move your pelvis. And first of all, I'm just going to go for a ride and feel what Amanda's head is doing. So I don't know if you can feel it, but like, I mean, you can come and watch, but Amanda's head is subscribing a circle in the same direction as her pelvis. So then if I just put a little bit more, restrict her head movement and then continue to do the circle. And can you see how that means that something else has to happen in her torso? Well, the head I'm just keeping is the constraint. So by keeping the head still, it means that she has to use her spine in a different way. And then do you want to come up to standing? Okay. And so in standing, maybe first if we go back to what we did first off in the lesson, if you shift your weight left and right, and I track you and I see what your head does. Okay. And then if I constrain the head and go from left to right, notice the difference, or by holding the head, what that means, Amanda has to organise herself in a different way. Is that clear to people? Okay. And then go forward and back, and I'm just going to, Amanda can do what she likes with her head, and I'm just following. And then if I, again, just gently give Amanda the idea that her head's going to stay still as she goes forward and back. And you can see the difference in her back and the pelvis. And then if you make a circle, Amanda, and I'll just trace the circle. Okay, and then continue whilst I hold on to your head more and feel how that's different. Okay, so how about coming up to standing and come back onto your feet. And I'm thinking you could, or go with a partner. Okay, so join up with somebody and pick somebody about the same height and just explore that. So you're just going to go for a ride with the person, so they're going first left and right and just feeling what the head does, and then keeping their head still, get them to go left and right, and then you're going to repeat that same pattern forward and back and in a circle. Does that make sense? Okay.